This video is for entertainment purposes only. Wild mushrooms and plants can be harmful or fatal if swallowed.
Hi friends, it's almost morel season, so I thought we would take a look at a different kind of mushroom that I associate with the morel mushrooms, at least with the yellow morel, Morchella americana. That's the most abundant of all the morels here in the eastern United States. The mushroom I'm talking about is the Mica Cap, or Glistening Inkcap. This is an inkcap mushroom. It gets its name because of the shiny little flecks on its cap. These are parts of its universal veil that it springs out of, and they're reflective in the sunlight, but they will eventually wash off. The inkcaps are a decomposer. They'll be growing on or near dying or dead wood, whereas the morels are a mycorrhizal fungus living in association with living tree roots. Why do I associate the Mica Cap with the morel mushroom? Even though they are very different types of mushrooms, they share a lot of things in common. They both have a similar distribution across the continent. They both come out at the same time of year in the early spring, and they both live in the same kind of habitats, moist areas, waterways, floodplains, creek beds, places like that. And they both also associate with the same kind of trees: elm trees, ash trees, tulip poplars, cottonwoods, sycamores, silver maples, to name a few. And just like the enoki mushrooms that we find in early winter, the mica caps can be a good indicator of a dying tree. If you find a bunch of mica caps at the base of an elm tree, that might be a great place to look for morel mushrooms. Let's see if there's any more here. Oh, yep. And there's another one over there, and another one over there, and another one over there. There's a lot of mushrooms. Look at this. Right by those morels, look at all these ink caps. There's quite a number of mica caps. So we have all the stages of growth here. The little pins coming out. We have some more mature ones. Nice big clusters. Even more mature ones starting to decompose. And then really mature ones almost completely self-destructed. That's how it goes with the ink caps. Nice white stem. Got these little crenellation folds in the side of the cap. Sometimes a darker umbo or center portion of the cap. And of course, those ink cappy gray black gills. So these mica caps are a good indicator of a place where you might find morels. They grow at the same time of the year and in the same type of habitat. And these are also technically edible mushrooms. Any edible ink caps like the mica cap and the shaggy mane, you pretty much want to collect them, put them on ice if you can, and run home and cook them as fast as possible, and cook them as delicately as possible. If you cook these hard in a pan, saute them like you would normal mushrooms, they're just going to turn to blackish goo, like these more mature ones. So you have to cook them very delicately, perhaps in a soup or a sauce. But even when you do that, it's going to turn the sauce gray, or the soup a little gray. If you're curious about cooking with these mushrooms, you can check out the Forager Chef's webpage on the topic. That's where some of these food pictures came from. I'll put a link to that in the description. And one thing you do want to be careful of is that you're not accidentally eating one of America's most deadly mushrooms, the deadly Galerina or funeral bell. They do look somewhat similar, and they could conceivably be fruiting on the same decomposing log. The best way to tell them apart is the mica cap will have a grayish blackish gill surface, as they have dark colored spores, and the deadly Galerina will have kind of an orange or rusty brown gill surface, as they have rusty brown spores. So keep that in mind. You do have to be careful with ink caps because most of them contain a chemical called coprine, which if ingested 48 hours before or after drinking alcohol will elicit a bad reaction, severe GI distress. So do be careful with ink caps. These do not have coprine. While we're on the subject of mushrooms and alcohol, there is a phenomenon where people have bad reactions to morel mushrooms. They are toxic if not thoroughly cooked, and sometimes they have bad reactions to morel mushrooms when taken with alcohol. It's not a very common phenomenon. I don't know anyone personally who's had this happen to them, but I do know people who can't tolerate morels. The downside is once you have a bad reaction to a morel mushroom, you may not be able to tolerate or eat them
for the rest of your life.
I did try to call poison control to get the official line on whether you can eat morels with alcohol.
Edible true morel mushrooms can cause GI symptoms if eaten raw or undercooked or consumed along with alcohol. They can also cause issues even if cooked properly if they're eaten in large quantity.
And so yeah, they say don't eat morels with alcohol, but people do it all the time. I don't think it's that big a deal, but if you're new to eating morel mushrooms, I would not eat a whole giant mess of them all at once, and I would maybe go easy on the alcohol until you know how they suit you. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Mushroom Journeys. I'm Michael File. I'll see you next time.